It's been 60 days. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie from the Today Show, vanished from her home in the Catalina foothills in Tucson, Arizona on February 1st. Blood was found in the front doorstep, a masked man caught on the doorbell camera, ransom notes sent demanding cryptocurrency, and right now, the Pima County Sheriff's Office has gone quiet. The FBI has gone quiet. No arrests. But here's what nobody is talking about. Arizona has a secret. And they have a secret about how they solve cases like this. How they really solve some cases like this. Not all cases, but high-profile cases. And they've been hiding it for decades. What I'm going to show you today is a pattern. It's a pattern of Arizona law enforcement with a documented history of quietly calling in psychics and then publicly denying it every single time. Today, we're going to talk about 3 specific cases. We're going to talk about Gail St. John and Stacy Hendrickson, Tempe, Arizona, 1992. We're going to cover Allison Dubois and Isabelle Celis. And we're also going to cover John Edward, Chasing Evil, 25 years with the FBI's solving case with John Edwards. So we're going to talk about that as well as we dive into secrets they don't want to tell us. My video yesterday, I said that I wasn't going to play the game anymore after learning how much ego really controls law enforcement. And I just have to say how ironic it is that everybody's talking about the sheriff's epic fail. In fact, I haven't watched it other than the first couple of seconds for Brian Enton's new video that just landed earlier this morning about one of the detectives wanting to speak out who's close to the investigation, rather, anonymously. And I said I wasn't playing the game anymore because I realized there's a game and there's a pattern of games where in high-profile cases, psychics might be used, but they're never going to tell you. And I said I did that remote viewing session not to the benefit of my ego, because that's what it takes to solve crimes, to be able to be wrong and not let your ego push a narrative. And what I find super ironic here is the law enforcement locally who've retired are making a lot of statements on the case, and they're talking about the arrogance of nanos. Everybody's talking about the arrogance of nanos. Spirituality isn't woo-woo. It's really a cross between self-reflection, a higher power that we all know exists, whether you call that God, the divine, or whatever religious organization you belong to or belief system. To me, they're all one and the same. It's a power higher than us that we don't really yet understand. And so spirituality is about recognizing yourself and your habits and your patterns where ego can interrupt you. And I ask myself if the locals have done the same, if the law enforcement here have done the same, because the ego behind using psychics, knowing that the CIA trains and does remote viewing, the fact that the Find Me group uses psychics to solve cases and rework with 350 plus police agencies across the world. Go check out Find Me's page. It's got references on the bottom to local police agents, or nationwide, rather, agencies. So the ego of denying the use of psychics. It's kind of like the ego where, you'd hear rumors for years ago about the UFOs, but we don't want to talk about that. But now it's kind of becoming mainstream. Yeah, it's like was taboo, I guess. But in 2026, should it still be taboo? I don't know. It's just a thought. Let's move on to the cases where I've discovered, while denying the facts that they used a psychic, they actually did. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to show you a video here. You don't have to take my word for it. I did the research. This is what I found, and it was buried, trust me. But this is the case of Gail St. Jean and Stacy Hendrickson. Tempe, Arizona, 1992. Stacy Hendrickson, 21, went missing from her Tempe apartment. Door kicked in. The police were running an abduction investigation, and then her father hires psychic Gail St. Jean. St. John tells the father his daughter is dead while police are still searching for her alive. St. John visions led the detective read directly to the body and to the murder weapon. She told the father the hard truth. That's not a cold reading. That's courage. Let's watch. Yes, y'all, I found this channel. I won't be able to play the whole clip. I'm going to show you a few, but it's a Psychic Investigators channel, an entire YouTube channel on all the cases that psychics have solved. Very cool. Go check it out. And this one in particular talks about this case in Arizona, Tempe, Arizona. Listen in for a few more minutes. We're not going to play more of that because I don't want to get a copyright strike. I'm proving a point here. Let's go to the next case. Sorry, I just want to show you this just to reconfirm, because this is not a video I won't get, copyright stricken on. It's in Tempe, Arizona, 1992. The summary of this case: a young woman, Stacy Hendrickson, was reported missing and her apartment door was found kicked in. A neighbor across the hall looked through his peephole when he heard commotion and saw a man in the front of her apartment banging and kicking on her door, but the neighbor did not call the police. My God. I bet you that person lives with some regret. For the next few days, the police search for Stacy, but she is nowhere to be found. Stacy's father, Raleigh Hendrickson, who lives in Toledo, Ohio, joins up with the local psychic, Gail St. John. Her visions led the police to the primary suspect, John Barry Adams, who later admits he was trying to commit suicide, but Stacy got shot accidentally. Gail St. John's psychic gifts led the police to the body and the murder weapon. But the discovery of the weapon leads police to suspect Adams' story, and forensic evidence paints a very different picture of the events leading to Stacy's death. The point is, she led them where they didn't go on their own. Let's go now to the next case. So it's just really curious because the next case is literally 10 years later. Allison Dubois and Isabelle Celis, Arizona, Tucson, Pima County, 2012. Just want to ask you, based on the last case, if a psychic can lead a detective to a body and a murder weapon, why does Arizona law enforcement still publicly say they've never used a psychic? Especially when you think about this case. Allison Dubois is extremely well known. She was born January 24th, 1972 in Phoenix, Arizona, and she's from there. She's an Arizona State University graduate, and her life became the NBC show called Medium between the years of 2005 and 2011, where Patricia Arquette played her. And the claims to have worked with Texas Rangers and Glendale, Arizona police both officially denied it, despite the show and her claims. A Phoenix-born psychic who inspired a television show, who law enforcement keeps officially denying but keeps quietly calling. Sound familiar? Hold that thought. Let's check out Allison Dubois. Now, she is someone that I've heard about quite a lot. Let's share Alison Dubois here before we get into that case. Dubois used her claimed psychic abilities to assist U.S. law enforcement officials in solving crimes, forming the basis of a TV series called Medium. Her powers as a medium were tested by Gary Schwartz of the University of Arizona. Schwartz claimed that his research supports Dubois' psychic abilities, while skeptics have pointed out the flaws in both Dubois' claims and Schwartz's research. She claims she has visions of both the past and the future, but it's mainly the dreams that allegedly help the police solve crimes. Early life. Dubois was born in Phoenix, Arizona, where she attended both North High School in Phoenix and Corona del Sol High School in Tempe. Despite dropping out, she obtained her GED at the age of 16. In college, she worked as an interim in the county attorney's office in Phoenix, and she received her BA in political science with a minor in history from Arizona State. Let's go into her career. Dubois refers to herself as a medium and a profiler rather than a psychic because of the negative connotation she feels associated with the term psychic. No kidding. Totally concur. She claims that she became aware that she had this ability to communicate with departed souls when she was 6 years old. That's about the age I was, 5 and 6 years old, in my bed talking to angels because I didn't have a loving family to go and talk to. Dubois claims she uses this ability to connect deceased loved ones to the living and also help law enforcement agencies solve crimes such as the Texas Rangers and the Glendale, Arizona Police Department, and that she used these abilities as a jury consultant. The law enforcement agencies have since either denied any such cooperation happened or stated the tips provided by Dubois were not helpful. Yeah. Arrogance and ego. Remember we talked about that? Arrogance and ego. Did I actually show you? Hope I showed you what I had up for Dubois. Anyways, let's go. Let's talk about this case. Here we are. Alison Dubois and Isabelle Celis. Isabelle Celis, 6-year-old Isabelle. Isa Celis reported missing from her Tucson home. She had the screen removed from her bedroom window, blood on the floor, a stained shower curtain found, and police spent $1 million and following 2,300 plus leads. The Tucson PD Sergeant Chris Weidmer went on the record. We do not use psychics. We never have, and yet a Tucson PD investigator personally suggested to the Celis family multiple times that they contact Alison Dubois. What Dubois said at the house, "It's not my dad. She cleared the father." Said the abductor was someone on the periphery, a cousin or friend who once lived in the house. Said the person snuck in through the window without a struggle. What happened? An extended family member who once lived in the home left Tucson 1 week after Isabelle disappeared, hired an attorney, and went uncooperative. In 2018, Christopher Clemens was convicted of Isabelle's murder, a periphery figure. Now let's read this article above. Poor little girl. How sad. A special report, Psychic Insights on Isabelle Celis case, published April 25th, 2014 to 28 a.m. and updated March 31st, 2017. Tucson, Arizona. Isabelle Celis reported missing April 21st, 2012. Since then, we talked to the little girl's family, to the Tucson police, to private investigators, even the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children. They all have their own opinions about what happened to Isa that night and who's potentially responsible for their disappearance. Does that sound familiar in the Nancy Guthrie case? I mean, we all have our opinions all over the place. Though today, for the first time, we hear from individuals who have a different approach to missing person cases. Individuals nobody, including the family or police, wanted us to know about until now. A lot can happen in 2 years. Children grow, families grow, some families separate, but not the family of Isabelle Celis. Even though the little girl's been missing for 2 years, they're absolutely committed to finding her. I can't believe that we are at 2 years, said Sergio Celis, the missing little girl's father. I certainly wish this wouldn't have been over that day. I certainly wish this would have been over that day. Yeah, no kidding. They speak of Isabelle only in present tense and even created a new bedroom for her return. It's all new. I can't wait for her to see it, says Isa's mother, Becky Celis. I think she's going to go crazy. I mean, this is so sad. At the time, she's not found. It's complete with a new bed, unopened presents rather, and letters from people she's never met. What feelings go through you when you're in this room cold, asks Becky. Hope, because it's all new. It's a new room. Just the thought of when she walks into this room and how excited she's going to be, she says. Some say that Celises are a bit delusional, holding on to something or someone they just can't let go. But there are some people who generally understand what they're going through. You know, this is traumatic. This is a child that's been removed from their life. Alison Dubois, a renowned psychic who's helped authorities solve dozens of cases across the country. She's also the inspiration behind the hit TV show Medium. For the record, police say they do not use psychics. Tucson police do not use psychics for investigative purposes. We never have, and I don't think that's a practice we're ever going to start, says Tucson Police Sergeant Chris Widmer. Widmer or Widmer? Widmer. Still, TPD was contacted by several psychics nationally, and even internationally, Widmer says. Still, TPD was contacted by several psychics locally, nationally, and even internationally, Widmer says. But every single lead that came from Isabelle was followed up on, and none of them turned out to be credible information. Yeah, I call BS on that. I absolutely call BS on that. The Celis says that they contacted Dubois after a TPD investigator suggested the idea to them. Several times, Sergio says, he made it very clear that's what he wanted us to do. I wrote up a profile for the Celis family and felt it was somebody close to them that knew the layout of the house, Dubois says, recalling her visit to Celis's home. We spoke to Dubois over the phone from her home in the Phoenix area. Her very first words to us referred specifically to Sergio Celis. So I went into her room, Dubois says, referring to the missing girl's bedroom. The first thing I heard is, it's not my dad. So that eliminates him for me because that's how I work cases. Instead, Dubois says the abductor was somebody who snuck in through Iz's window and snatched her up without anybody hearing a thing. That is with the exception of one neighbor whose apartment just feet from below the girl's bedroom. I didn't hear her. I never heard her voice, says Elijah Stavervart, who lived immediately next door to the Celises. I heard a couple of male voices right outside my bedroom window, right outside her bedroom window, but I didn't hear a struggle. There was no fighting. I think she was taken by somebody she knew. That's consistent with what investigators have said, as well as what Dubois shared with the Celises. One was almost retracing steps, Sergio said, recalling his conversation with Dubois about Isa's abduction. It was almost frightening because of how vivid it was. It felt like somebody maybe on the periphery, Dubois said, which can be a cousin or a friend, perhaps even somebody who lived in Celis's house, she said. Dubois would not say whether or not Isabelle is still alive, citing her findings as inconclusive, though another psychic we spoke to did not hesitate. I can usually feel if they've passed on, and she doesn't feel passed on. Not at all. She doesn't. Meet Ertrea. She's one of the several psychics we contacted. While she never worked on the case with the family, she's the only psychic other than Dubois who'd go on record with her thoughts. I still think there's a potential for returning home in could be 3 or 5 years, something like that, Atria said. But like I said, I keep seeing her playing, keep seeing her happy. If that's the case, where is she and why hasn't anybody demanded any sort of ransom? Last year, the psychics revealed there's an extended family member who promptly left the state 1 week after Isabelle went missing. Incidentally enough, that relative once lived in the Celis's home. We told his We're told he's hired an attorney and has not been cooperative with the case. It could be something as simply as protecting themselves from something else, from actually something that happened they're involved in, Becky Celis says. Without revealing any information to Atria, she said whoever abducted Isabelle's did not intend to keep her this long. Though plans changed after seeing all the attention the case received nationally, even in Mexico, that person has not returned to her because I think they're more afraid of prosecution and things like that. Atria says, over the last 25 years, Atria has helped find missing people from Arizona to Florida. Again, she believes Isabelle is still alive, probably somewhere south of the border. Couple that with the findings of Alison Dubois and other psychics who asked to remain nameless, and it gives Celis some sense of optimism and a new sense of hope. The fact that we're getting the same story over and over again, Becky Celis says, Dubois hopes it gives the community a better understanding of the case. There's nothing more painful than losing your child, she says. And the two people who have been front and center from the very beginning. I just hope people express some sensitivity and prayers to the family and continue praying for her to come back or be found either way so the matter can be put to rest, says Dubois. For legal purposes, we're not revealing the name of the relative under suspicion, but we can say Dubois came up with a rendering without even seeing that person that was strikingly similar. Did it make the hair on the back of your neck stand up? Cold asked the Celises. Yes, and it did hers too, Sergio says, especially when she saw the individual's picture. When we ask the Tucson police about the relative, all that they say is they continue to investigate all the subjects involved in this case, and that includes people locally in California, in Washington, and in Texas. Wow. Wow. Still won't admit to it. Still won't admit to it. What do you think before we get on to the third case, the FBI? One that the FBI agent wrote an entire book about how this psychic helped him solve the case. Let's watch that one quickly. So, Chasing Evil, 25 years of secret work. The third case, if you will, with the FBI. Although this is a string of secret cases for 25 years. In September 25, 2025, something happened that changed the conversation permanently, hopefully. I say personally, that was a Freudian slip. Permanently. What I'm going to tap into is this talk about here is why we have this firewall, like between law enforcement, when they won't officially say that a psychic helped them build the case. I know, because a defense attorney will tear it apart. It's not that they don't believe, it's that they can't afford to. They can't afford to. But retired FBI Special Agent Robert Hilland co-authored Chasing Evil with psychic medium John Edwards, which was published September 2nd, 2025. Like what? 5 months ago? 4 months ago? It reveals a 25-year secret collaboration between Hilland and Edwards on real FBI cases, kept secret the entire time Hilland was active for 25 years. A retired FBI agent wrote a book saying, I did this, it worked, and I kept it secret the whole time because I had to. Now you tell me, do you really think the Tucson PD investigator who sent the Celis family to Alison Dubois was acting alone, or is this a systemic issue? Okay. Recap: 1992 Tempe, 2012 Tucson, 2025 the FBI admits it, and now we're back in Pima County in 2026. Okay. Now let's look first at this. John Edwards and Robert Hilland. FBI agent Robert Hilland and a psychic medium John Edwards reveal 25 years of crime-solving teamwork exclusive. The law enforcement veteran and renowned psychic medium chronicle their unorthodox crime-fighting journey with their new book, Chasing Evil. What you need to know. When the FBI special agent Robert Hillen reluctantly reached out to psychic John Edward in 1998 for help with the tough case, he had no idea that his life would change forever. John Edwards, the psychic, is the one in the red on the left, and Robert Hilland is in the suit on the right. Hilland and Edward open up about their unusual journey fighting crime with the help of Edward's spirit guides in their new thrilling book, Chasing Evil. The book tells the story of some of the many high-profile cases they have tackled together, the people they helped, and the deep bond they now share. Annie L.E. was nowhere to be found. On the morning of September 8th, 2009, the 24-year-old Yale University graduate student vanished. Law enforcement, who was working towards a PhD, L.E., who was working towards a PhD in pharmacology, was last seen. Sorry, I guess that's not the law enforcement. Sorry. Annie L.E., I'm sorry. The victim, Annie L.E., was working towards a PhD in pharmacology, was last seen on surveillance video entering a research building on the university's sprawling New Haven, Connecticut campus, but was never seen leaving. Authorities launched a massive search for the 4-foot, 11-inch bride-to-be who disappeared just 5 days before her wedding to her longtime fiancé, leaving behind only blood droplets and strands of hair in the lab where she had been attacked. The sensational case quickly became headline news, with media outlets racing to report every detail they could dig up about the shocking murder that rocked the prestigious Ivy League school. But one part of the story has been kept under wraps from the public and even the FBI itself. Wow, that's interesting. Until now. Authorities found L.E.'s remains on September 12, 2009, inside a wall in the basement of the 5-story research building with the help of the longtime FBI special agent Robert Hilland and renowned psychic medium John Edwards, they tell People exclusively. On the second day Lee went missing, Edward called Hilland from Ireland. Second day, where he was traveling at the time, frenetically directing him to a specific spot on the. So Edward called Hilland. So the psychic called Hilland, frenetically directing him to a specific spot in the building. True to form, John lit up. Hilland tells People it was like a computer coming alive. John's on the phone saying, "She's right there. She's right there to the right," directed by his spirit guides from the other side. Edward told Hilland to look in a nearby bathroom. John's ringing in my ears saying, "She's right there," says Hilland, but she wasn't. The only thing he and the other agent and the police officers saw was a wall. This is a case where John is insisting she's right there, says Hilland. And I'm like, "Hey, pal, I like you and everything, but she's not here. You must be tuning into something. She's not here." 2 days later, I'm heading back to DC and I get this call from one of my colleagues who says, "You're not going to believe this. One of the cadaver dogs got a hit on the bathroom. We opened up the pipe chase and found her body stuffed in the wall," says Hilland. She was exactly where John said she was. For the first time ever, Hilland, a law enforcement veteran of 35 years, and Edward, a New York Times bestselling author, former host of the hit TV show Crossing Over with John Edward, and creator of the social media platform Evolve, revealed that they quietly worked together on many cases for the past 25 years. They chronicle their unorthodox crime-fighting journey in their new book, Chasing Evil: Shocking Crimes, Supernatural Forces, and an FBI's agent search for hope and justice. And here's the book. Here's the book. Oh, for that whole time, I thought you were looking at it. Here's the book, y'all. There you go. Chasing Evil. Let me show you the article. Let's go back to the article so you can see the pictures of these two. And the People magazine report. There you go. So the pattern is we're not going to admit we use them. And I absolutely get that they need psychic mediums that give them very specific details that they can work with. And I also totally understand, because it's not mainstream yet, how a defense attorney would rip that apart. But somewhere in the middle, there has to be something where ego is let down. And in the 2025 New Age era, again, as I say, we talk about UFOs. Maybe it's time we start understanding that we don't know enough about the brain to really say it doesn't exist. And when you write an entire book about solving crimes for 25 years with a psychic medium as an FBI agent that you did in secret for 25 years, I think it's time we start unveiling the truth about what psychics can do, and we lay down the ego and we try to solve cases faster with some extra help. Again, News Nation's reporting and has an entire series on UFOs now. It's time we start to think outside of the box to solve cases. Thank you for being here. Love and light, everybody. Do all the YouTubey things.